Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for Wednesday, September 28th, 2016. Apologies for the video coming a little later today. Had some overtime at work requiring my attention, but I'm here. So let's jump right into VR. Story I talked about 2 days ago, literally, involving Tim Donahey. He's the fellow who did the 50 days of virtual reality cardio. Turns out he's announcing the formation of his own company called ATG Studios to capitalize on what he sees as potential market for, you guessed it, virtual reality exercise applications. Now, ATG is an acronym for anybody who's in the know in terms of weightlifting. Simply means ass to grass, which comes from squatting, basically going as low as you can go, etc. Just in case you were wondering, ATG Studios. He's got a couple programmers on board already, and they plan on starting right away. I also talked about Dexed a few days ago. I believe it was on the same news night. Now, first kind of mainstream review is out for that game. It's probably one I'm going to try. It's definitely piqued my interest. This was the Panzer Dragoon style game. And the positives are about what you would expect. Beautiful levels, great gameplay mechanics, and as we've kind of all come to, experience, the negatives are about what you'd expect. The biggest one, way too short. And unfortunately, that's just something that's going to take time for development cycles to start pumping out games that are a little bit more involved. But looks great. Definitely one I want to try. First news headline involves another kind of game/application. This one's called GravLab, and this one really got my attention because what it allows you to do. Now, it's for Touch and Vive, for Oculus Rift for the Touch control set and HTC Vive with its control set, and it's a puzzle-centric game that basically has you guiding spheres from a start to an end point, and you've got to build contraptions to get the sphere there, and that's the puzzle elements. Now, so it's kind of that Marble Madness, if you've heard of that game concept. Marble Madness was basically literally guiding a marble with a trackball from start to finish, except here you're building the course as you go. So sounds like a really cool puzzle game. I'll definitely look into that one. I like what these next guys are doing. Now, they're called Virtually Live, and what they've done is they've recreated a Formula E race in a VR broadcasting demo. And this is available for both Vive and Rift via the Steam store. And what these guys are doing different from most other 360 companies that do 360 content is, one of the complaints with 360 is the fact that you're basically constantly on that pivot point where the camera was, and everything is predetermined. You're still very passively involved, right? Well, what they've done with this is they've created, other than the main event itself, which is the car race, the stands, the area surrounding that is all purely VR. The beauty of that is you can literally get up out of your seat, find different vantage points to view the action, which again is one of the big complaints with existing 360 stuff, is that you're so locked in. So very cool that they're addressing that. It's a free demo. Check it out on Steam. I will have that in the link below. Next up, this was a freaking cool story. Very cool story. A legally blind man. Now, he's got a condition. It's a hereditary eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa. And basically, it's extreme nearsightedness, all right? And to make it even worse, on top of that, he's got diplopia, which basically causes almost permanent double vision. So just happen to be in a store, and we've said this so many times, demo it, people are going to get it. So he found himself in exactly that type of situation, figured, what do I got to lose? I can't really see anything anyways. What's this VR all about? I'm going to try it. So he was at a PC World in the UK, tried it, and lo and behold, it completely reversed the effects of his condition. Because of the nearsightedness and the way VR in this generation is set up, normally he'd have to get in real close to stuff, which is exactly what VR does. It puts it right up on your pupil. Plus, the stereoscopic nature of both the Rift, the Vive, and the Sony PlayStation VR, where literally each lens has a different rendering of the same scene, he had no issues with his double vision. So effectively was able to see for the first time almost perfectly in virtual reality. How cool is that? While that's not a cure, it's at least an avenue to, escape from that and feel like he's not impacted by it, right? To actually see color. So one of the demos was very bright balloons, and I forget what the application was. But it was the first time in so long since he was a child that he was able to just experience and revel in simple color. Colored balloons floating in the air. So very cool. Check that story out in the link below. And, you got to think, what's the chance of that? Had he not even tried it, he would never probably know. So very cool story. Now, there's 5 questions which Upload VR believes we will have answered at the Oculus Connect event next week. And that's the event that's through October 5th through the 7th. And the 5 questions that they believe will get answered are, first, what can you do with Oculus Touch? And that's simply because there's going to be demos and probably a release date announcement, something firm. Number 2, what new games will sell headsets? And another topic we've covered many times is the whole concept of a killer app, right? Needing a killer app. We've come, I wouldn't even say close. There's some quality stuff out there, but no killer app yet. So absolutely. We're probably going to get an idea at that event of what's in the pipe. And I get asked that question a lot. What AAA stuff is being worked on? We're going to know a lot more next week. Number 3, has Oculus solved inside-out position tracking? And, that's something that I mentioned just the other day with this other technology is how does it handle resyncing, right? Can it resync on the fly? And that's the nature of what these guys are trying to figure out, what Oculus is trying to figure out to get away from the camera requirements, right? Or the lighthouse for the Vive. So I am really interested in finding out how this other company does it, if in fact they do it, right? I imagine they would, because like I said, that would destroy the immersion if you're constantly pulled out anytime you lose synchronization. Number 4, has Facebook made the killer social app? Now, that's not a question I would ask or really even care about, no offense. I spend very little time on Facebook nowadays. If there was a killer social app on there, yeah, I'd probably try it. I'd have to, just for the news channel, to be able to report on it. But it's definitely not something I'm looking for, if that makes any sense. I'm more into the game aspect or applications that do unique and cool things, whether it's Rift or Vive, right? And then the 5th question that we'll probably have answered, they think, is what is on the horizon? And that simply ties most of these questions together, some kind of roadmap, some kind of indication from Oculus, what is on the horizon? What can we expect? And I do agree, I think that's an important question to have at least a rough answer for, to give us early adopters some sense of what we're up against the next 6 months, 12 months, 18, 2 years. Rough is fine, as long as we can see some kind of pipeline of activity. Next news piece regarding Steam. So I would say for me personally, I've played more VR games through Steam, but Oculus Store hasn't been a slouch. There's a lot of things I've purchased on the Oculus Store as well that I've enjoyed, but I would agree Steam by far probably the majority of my virtual reality collection. Well, some stats today on Steam and the state of VR. So Steam now boasts 600 virtual reality games and applications. And the first thing that's probably coming to your mind, it came to my mind when I saw this, is a lot of them are crap, right? There's a lot of cruft out there, stuff that isn't very good. And if you actually whittle that all away, what you're left with certainly isn't a number approaching 600. I'd go so far as to say it's probably not even a number with 3 digits. It would be under 100, and probably the low half 50 tops for what I would call quality, good VR experiences. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. Am I off base with that number? Again, just based on my experience, counting the games I've played, unless I'm missing a hell of a lot of games out there that I haven't tried that are awesome, I wouldn't say anywhere near 600. But the stat that I did think was pretty cool was that 30% of the current top 10 Steam games are virtual reality games. And one of them isn't that surprising, is of course The Lab, which is free. And yeah, that is and has been number one for quite a while. All right, the last news piece has to do with Samsung. And they were at a San Francisco event recently, and Samsung President and Chief Strategy Officer Young Sohn dished out some additional, timeline, roadmap type information. And that's what I was just talking about with Oculus Touch event that I hope we get. Well, he gave us a little bit of that at this event. And he talked about the next generation likely being 4K and continuing to evolve. He sees the step from 4K going right into 10K, which I can't even imagine. I can imagine 5 to 7 years looking back and all of us kind of snickering at the Rift and Vive and, oh my God, can you imagine we liked that at one time? And it just looking super primitive. Now, it's always going to have a place for me, and I'm going to, even if they're retired, I'll probably put it up on a shelf in the man cave just out of respect, because it was the first device, or devices, if you look at the Rift and Vive both, to bring us virtual reality, VR to the masses, right? And he also says that the investment costs are going to be very, very high. And we know that in the order of billions of dollars to see that happen. So we just need a bunch of things to happen. And it all starts with Sony on the 13th, which is coming up really, really quick. And of course, the future of the Rift and Vive. But the main thing, and he didn't address this, but I've touched on it before, what puts Samsung in such an awesome position is the fact that they are the screen supplier for 2 of the big 3, Rift and Vive. Sony obviously has the advantage. They make their own screens. They have screen manufacturing / fabrication ability. So their OLED screen is their own by manufacturer and design. But on the other side, when we're talking Rift and Vive, Samsung is the player for the screens for both of those devices. So they are in a very good position moving forward. All right, guys, that is it. Like I said, a late one. My apologies again. I'm going to see what I can enjoy, what's left in my night before I hit the sack and start it all over again. So cheers, as always, and definitely catch you on the VR flip side.